Hey, welcome everybody. We're really excited to be here for our second annual town hall event. We did this last year and we felt like it was a really good success. We were able to share a lot of information directly from the questions that each of you were asking. And it gave us a little bit better chance to collaborate and make sure that the things that are going through our minds are being shared with you and you're able to execute on the mission that we agree to go on together. And that's what this is about: collaboration, being on the same page, and allowing you guys to ask the questions, some fun, but some really serious about what the business needs to be able to move forward. So Teresa, Rick, and I are here. Bloopers are included. And we really want to be able to share with you guys and be able to give you guys honest information. So we got Patrick McGuigan, our one and only repair director. DeRapio, I think is what the title name is for Paul. And he's going to be monitoring today's session. So I'm going to turn it over to him. Let's get started.
Thanks, James. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you inviting me to host. It means a lot. We have some good questions. I was looking through them, and there's some doozies in here. So I hope you're ready to answer some questions from the people.
Let's do it.
Right? All right, first one. Our first question is from Bob Conley, a full-line installer from our Philly market.
Thank you. My question is, what steps are you taking to maintain a healthy culture for PJ Fitzpatrick?
Sounds like a me question, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Thanks, Bob. So as always, we get together, me and all the GMs get together and try to plan some fun stuff for everyone to do. Not everything can we do at every location, but we try to do some things uniformly so we all have a similar experience. But I think the most important thing that I can do to maintain a healthy culture for PJ Fitzpatrick is really to meet with all of you. So I do that after you've been here about 90 days, really 90 days to 6 months. I set up a one-on-one and I meet with you, figure out how things are going, what things we could have done better, what things we did well, and we make a lot of changes based on that. In addition, me and Amanda also have access to your monthly one-on-ones. However, there are 430 people now. So we do try to scan through those just to get a feel for what's happening and just get a sense of what's going on in our culture. And we do make changes based on that information. But I would say still, if you ever have any issues, please always reach out to your managers because we're always looking to make things better here. Great question, Bob. Thank you.
I'd say just the fact that we have a corporate culture officer at all is pretty testament to, to how we view having a healthy culture here at PJ. So good stuff, Teresa. Next one up is Luke Sherman, who's a lead bath installer from our Baltimore market.
Hey, James, Rick, Teresa, thanks again for having this. The first question I have for you guys is, have you considered creating or hosting a commercial driver's license training program?
That's a great question, Luke. Thank you for sharing it. I like to think of us not as much in home construction, but as an education organization, one where we are a group of lifelong learners that continually try to find new trades, find new skills that are going to be able to be used here, but also maybe be able to use throughout our personal life as well. So while we don't have a formal program today, and I don't know necessarily what it would take to put that together, I'll get back with that information. But I would encourage each of you, when you see things that matter to you and from an education standpoint, or a way that you can elevate yourself in your role, be better for the people that the customers you're standing in front of, we would like to hear that. So I know in the past we've sponsored courses at ABC was a program here in Delaware. We've had a lot of variety of different times where people have come and wanted to learn a skill or be able to improve upon what they do. So we'll get back with you specifically on that. I know recently we do have a focus on that just because we recently had Ken Franklin, who on his own time got his CDL license, and it opens up a lot of opportunities. Overall, we'd like to stay as much away from commercial Department of Transportation style routes and driving for you guys because there's a lot of logistics and coordination involved with it. But definitely good information and a chance for you guys to improve upon what you have to offer to us and for yourself as well.
All right, thank you.
Question, Luke. Yeah, good stuff, Luke. Next up, now the last name isn't on the page. I'm going to do my best here. Right? It's Taekwon. Is it Hartfeld? Did I get that right?
Yes,
Taekwon Hartfeld. All right. Okay.
Yes.
So he's got our next question. He's a senior warehouse logistics specialist from our North New Jersey market.
Yes, how you guys doing? Good morning, guys.
Good morning.
Morning, Taekwon.
My question is, does PJ Fitzpatrick have plans to enter the solar industry, such as offering products like solar singles?
I'll take that one. That's a great question. And frankly, interestingly enough, solar has kind of made its way on the list a number of times when we're thinking about future products we might want to implement, because we do believe our growth can hinge upon adding new products to what we currently do. Solar is interesting for a lot of reasons. One, while not everybody needs to replace their roof, almost everybody could have a solar system on their roof. And so it would open up a lot of opportunities for us. At this point, we feel like the actual products haven't quite made it to where they need to be for us to offer them to our customers. They're still very expensive, and there's a pretty long return on investment, something like 7 to 12 years, depending on how much you spend before you actually start saving money. They're making great strides every year to improve that, though. So we're kind of in a wait and see to see when they get to that point where you can put a system on your house and have a return on investment that's much quicker. So I would say stay tuned on that one. It wouldn't surprise me if down the road we ended up doing something in the solar industry.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I think that's a smart approach. I agree with that, Rick. It's like there's a lot of it's kind of saturated market. There's a lot of companies out there doing solar, and there's been these promises of, you know, the solar shingle, the stuff from Tesla, and it's not there. We'd hate to get involved in something and then have to back out of that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's just not quite there yet, we think.
Good stuff. Next up, we have a question from Andrew Gliniak, who is a lead bath installer from Philly.
Hey, how are you guys doing?
Andrew?
So, my question is, with the rising cost of healthcare nationwide, could we possibly add another option? Is there currently an option, or can we add Blue Cross Blue Shield or other alternatives?
So this is a pretty meaty discussion, and it's not just here. We're hearing it if you're following the news. The cost of healthcare, the new solutions out there from a prescription drug standpoint, all of those things are putting pressure on the industry and driving the cost up. We were one of a unique small group of people last year that actually didn't have premium rate increases for most of our people, and for some of the categories actually had premium declines. That's partially an aggressive strategy that we've had. Partially we have a younger, healthier organization than others. But Amanda and the team are spending time each year working directly with the Safeguard Group, who's our provider, to ensure that we actually are putting the most relevant plans based on your needs. So whether it's having an additional option, whether it's looking at a different solution versus Aetna versus an Independence Blue Cross, those are going to come from those conversations. But what we want to be able to do more than anything is put a plan in front of you that the costs are as reasonable as possible for yourself, as well as you scale towards the rest of your family. Now, we also are aggressive in ways to mitigate costs for you guys. So one of those is KissRx. And if you haven't heard of KissRx, most certainly stop and spend some time with Amanda or Tiffany. KissRx gives us the ability, if you need to get imaging services, if you need to get surgery, like I know at some point I'm going to need rotator cuff surgery, and I could go and spend thousands of dollars, eat up my entire deductible. KissRx is partnered with our health insurance to actually be able to give you the option to find, in many cases, zero cost solutions. And this isn't zero cost because you're going to the back of someone's house and getting surgery in the basement. You're going to the Rothman to get your shoulder surgery. They've spent time to pre-negotiate and put these plans together. I'd also remind everybody that we have a FSA, a flexible spending account. If you know you have children, you know you're going to have deductibles involved. If you're going to have surgery, dental work, whatever the case may be, you can put dollars aside each week tax-free, which is going to add up significantly over time and allows you to be able to put that money aside and, pull some savings back. And I'll finish with the one last piece and this is unique to PJ because I've never seen this in my 25 years before being here. We actually cover up to $750. If you're on the core plan, we cover up anywhere between $750 and $2,250 of your first portion of your deductibles. And if you're on the buy-up plan, it's anywhere between $250 to $750. So we are trying to find ways to mitigate costs because some of these things are outside of our control, but we will continue to be very, very aggressive. And Amanda and Greg will tell you, I'm vocal with our health providers to ensure that we are doing the best we can by you guys.
Thanks. That's an awesome. Do I ask my second question?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
So we also had a second question. Bath is growing so fast in our New Jersey market. How big do you think Bath can get in the New Jersey market over the next 2 to 3 years?
I'm going to take that one
Huge.
too. Our bath product is just a really exciting product. You know, we see the ups and downs of the business, but for certain parts of it, if it's not raining, our business doesn't have the demand, which is why we put focus first on bath, and we've in turn put more focus on windows and doors, so that we have additional flagships to be able to prop up roofing and siding, which are going to, in many cases, be more weather dependent. Now, specifically to bath and specifically to New Jersey, that market right now is about an $18 to $20 million bath market today. We aren't exhausting the mediums, the different ways we can market, TV, radio, all that. We're not exhausting the mediums yet. We got a lot of opportunity and upside there. But to think that that is a $60 to $75 million bath office 2 to 3 years from now is completely realistic. I mean, I look at bath over the next 5 years being a $200 million part of our business, period, let alone just other products and other offerings. And that's because people are aging in place and people are looking for more reliable solutions. And where people maybe wanted tile and other options now, they're starting to warm to acrylic with the better designs, with the better accessory features that are available. And I think the upside is huge. So for those in the bath world, that's a good thing.
Speaking about bath, so with bath growing to be kind of our number one product, do we feel that in the health of the business, having something that's a little bit more weatherproof, you know, where we're not so focused on doing stuff like roofing and siding, and where the big ups and downs, and we can count on bath a little bit more consistently throughout the year? That I'm assuming that's good for everybody at the business.
Well, just to give you like a little stat, whereas sales have been down the past few months, and not because people aren't working hard and out there doing their best, but because it hasn't been raining. You know, it's been months since we've had a significant downpour. During that time where we've had some pretty big drop-offs in full line and even a little bit in window and door, bath is on target. You know, they've been 1 or 2 points below, 1 or 2 points above goal month in, month out. And that consistency gives us a little better opportunity to plan, but also to ensure that we don't have these months where things get really stressful as a business, because the peaks and valleys of working exteriors only could be really, really challenging, not only for the business owners and leaders, but for the people working on a day-to-day basis.
Yep. Thanks, James. Good stuff. I jumped the gun a little bit. Taekwon actually had a second question, so we're going to go back to Taekwon.
All right.
Taekwon, you're still muted. There you go.
Thank you, guys. Business seems slow this time of the year. How are other businesses we deal with? How are they doing right now? And by the chance, is this industry wide? Like, is it a whole industry thing going on with the business being so slow?
Good question. I'll take that one. So it has slowed down a bit over the last 3 to 4 months. And one of the things that I'm lucky enough to do is network with dozens of owners across the country. And we meet actually every 2 weeks on Zoom. And one of the things we always talk about at the end of each month is, how'd you do last month? And we discuss, we discuss how everybody did last month compared to target. I would say 80% of the companies I network with have been below target over the last 3 to 4 months. So we're not alone. By the way, we're still doing amazing, just not quite hitting the lofty goals we've set for ourselves. One of the things that we are confident, there are some external pressures. I hate to ever focus on things external, because that's not really stuff you can control. I like to focus on what we can control. But things like the election. I mean, if you watching the Eagles game, if I see another political ad, I don't know what I'm gonna do. It's just that's all you see.
He's going to vote.
Maybe. Now I don't think I want to with all I see. But anyway, so that does 2 things. One is it distracts the homeowners. I mean, that's all you're thinking about. That's all you're seeing. You're almost maybe concerned about what's going to happen, whoever's elected, what's coming down the pike. And it does actually preclude us from doing some of the advertising that we normally do. We can't run TV right now. It's too expensive. In addition to that, even direct mail gets kind of lost in the sauce in people's mailboxes. So everybody's kind of feeling that. Everybody I've networked has felt that. Fortunately, you know, in a month or two, that's going to go away. And look, let's face it, the other thing James mentioned earlier, like with roofing, we have not had a lot of rain. I focus on that a lot. In fact, September was the 4th driest September in recorded history. We had 0.4 inches of rain. Look, we can't control any of that. All we can focus on is the things we can control. It's what we do every day. It's honing our skills and so on. So we're not alone in this little slowdown, but we are not concerned at all that it's something that's going to be long term.
And if I could add on there, for anybody that sat in any of my GCO or leadership development presentations, you heard two things: luck favors prepared. We're focusing right now to make sure that we're ready for the moment when it comes. But you also hear me talk about, for me, I don't answer the phone or stand in front of a customer selling. What myself and Rick and Teresa and the leader bidders businesses do is try to stay out ahead of us. And we had a lot of conversation in December and January and made what now looks to be a pretty good decision to put our foot on the gas then, because we weren't sure of what was going to happen now. And so when we think about business being a little bit slow right now, we're slow on a $145 million pace, $12 million in sales, $12 million in production. That's $145 million over the course of a year. So we got ahead of it early in the year with sales and production and are kind of starting to get into where we should be anyway. So I will say that we try to do our best to make sure that we're out ahead of this for you guys. But I would expect that we're going to start to see some bounce back, hopefully, as people's minds can get straight next month again.
Good. Love hearing
Thanks,
this stuff.
Taekwon.
Yeah, good question.
Taekwon.
All right, we got Gavin Reeder, who's our Bath Contract Verification Specialist. Are we calling that a BCVS?
Yes.
Are we? Or did I just make that up? Nice.
Paul Sweeney would be proud.
Hello. My question is, what will the end of 2025 look like in the terms of new locations?
So, one of the really cool things is last year, midway through the year, we're in the midst of trying to get Baltimore, Washington, and Northern Virginia open. And myself and Greg talked to Rick and Teresa and Tim and Dave, and who are the brain trust of our company. And, we said, we need a moment to start to catch up with our growth. The way I described it is we're the 7-foot 7th grader, going to be the best player on the team, but you can barely walk over his steps because he's growing into their body. And I feel like who we were. So, while we've had a lot of new this year and even some new areas with Northern Virginia, our focus has been really on who we are and building our strength as an organization and catching up with our growth. And we were lucky enough to really have that focus since pretty much like July 1st, 2023, all the way through this year. But we will start to train our eyes on the next spot. So if you think about it, we already have licensing in place for Virginia. So an expansion from Northern Virginia down into Richmond or Norfolk gives us an opportunity to grow in markets that are growing really rapidly right now. Richmond is a really fast-growing, tech-oriented market, and that's our customer, or it will be our customer as we continue to grow. Pushing out from Pittsburgh into Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, Cleveland, Cincinnati, 3 huge 2 million plus population markets in one state, which also then provides a gateway through Cincinnati to Lexington, Kentucky, and more. So I would say that you're going to see opportunities for contiguous growth, both south and west. And we'll be opportunistic. If we see a company that we can bring into the fold, like a Bay Roofing, where there's a tremendous amount of yeses we say today that we said no to before because we didn't have that expertise and that curious style that Bay brought to the table. So we're most certainly not going to be afraid of a strategic opportunity via acquisition that pushes us forward and gives us an opportunity to continue to grow and create opportunities. Because a lot of up until we started to grow, people left here. Not because they weren't happy, not because Rick and Teresa didn't treat them well, because the opportunity to grow into a new role or grow within their skill set wasn't there. And that's what growth offers, and that's what I'm excited to provide to you guys.
I may have this question off at the pass that Florida is not in the immediate
No. Sorry, Jason.
radar at this point. Yeah, sorry, everybody who wants to move to Florida.
Same for California, Hawaii.
Yeah, those are probably lower on the list.
Contiguous eventually.
We like
We'll get it.
Cincinnati.
I will tell you that
Come on.
the one big thing is we learn from each of these moments. So Harrisburg was done on the backs of our people that were working in Philly. right? I mean, if you were here then, you were going above and beyond to help support there. We're going to continue to revamp our approach, find new ways to be able to grow, but also to not create additional stress for the people in the business that are working hard already.
You have a second question. You already partially answered it, but what are the areas and timelines for future expansions, and how far are we looking to go?
We're going to go as I really believe this. I believe that when PJ Fitzpatrick comes to a market, customers win. We set a higher bar from a customer service and an expectation standpoint. That's tough for a lot of people in the business because you hear more about when things go wrong, not about when things go right. But when I look at us, when we got going in 2020, we had a 91% guild quality score as a company. And that's a really 91 against industry average of 89. So 91% of our scores were 4 stars, 5 stars or better. And that's a really remarkable number. Now we've grown from 25 million to this year, we'll do close to 150 million. Our guild quality score is going to be a 92 this year. You know, and to me, that's a testament to what you all do on a day-to-day basis. Rising up to the challenge of growth, rising up to the volume of customers, and continuing to do it PJ's way. So I would say that in terms of how far we'll go, we're going to continue to grow, but we're going to grow in reasonable steps and chunks along the way. So if I had to say that next year, we would probably put our foot down in 2 to 3 markets and start that growth. I would say that seems really reasonable by the end of the year. Now, with that said, we have different approaches. Like, for example, I would want to lead with repair more than put them in the back because they are a great representation of the way PJ Fitzpatrick does business and our commitment to customer service. And we should lead with that going forward. So that's the constant evolution of our approach based on our wins and our lessons along the way.
Good questions. I think it's important to stress that something you said that's really important, James, that we're going to grow, but we're going to do it the PJ way. And it's been proven that we're going to do it that way. We had an opportunity to just keep growing in 2024. If we wanted to, we probably could have opened up a new market, but we said, no, we recognize that there's things going on at the company that need attention. And we're not going to be able to give it those resources if we keep growing. So that's important. I think it's important to stress that it's not, just keep getting
responsible
bigger.
Growth.
Responsible growth. Yeah.
Great point.
Good questions. Next up, Kevin Iacone, our pick field supervisor, doing a great job.
Good morning.
Morning.
Related to the business, what keeps you guys up at night?
Many things.
That's a tough one.
I'll start. I mean, because I wake up a lot at night. Maybe it's because I'm 55, but there's other reasons too. But anyway, honestly, I think what keeps me up at most at night is the responsibility I have to the people here. I mean, we have over 400 employees now. So it's, not that I didn't feel that way when we had 100, but now we've got 4 times that. And so I definitely kind of feel it especially when we're slow. It's never a good feeling if I feel like we don't have quite enough work to put in front of our folks. It doesn't keep me up at night in the sense that I worry that we're not going to be able to put the work in front of everybody, but it just it stresses me out when we slow down. I just feel like everybody gets a little bit stressful too. So yeah, maybe a little grumpy, sleep a little worse, but. So I'm sure James and Teresa feel the same way. I mean, we have a pretty serious responsibility to the people here to make sure we have a great work environment, a safe work environment, maybe even a fun work environment. But most importantly, to make sure that everybody has enough work and can make the compensation to take care of their family. So that's probably the biggest stressor for me that I feel.
Rick worries enough for the both of us.
Yeah, and then you got, crappy sports teams that I'm worried about all the time. I mean, if the Eagles lose at night, I'm up at night.
Second question is for Rick and Teresa. How did you two meet?
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been such a long time. Well, I'm Delaware girl, born and raised in Delaware, and I went to UD, University of Delaware, for college. And when I was a sophomore, I was at a fraternity party. Paul was probably there with us, and it was a mixer. I was in a sorority. He was in a different fraternity. And I think Rick still thought he was in high school or something. He asked my roommate about me, and next thing you know, he asked me to his fraternity formal.
Yep.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I was already going with someone else.
But I
So-
asked him to step aside though. He was a younger fraternity brother than I, so I could say, hey, you got to step aside. I'm going with Teresa.
Yeah. So somehow we ended up going together, and the rest is history. So that was 1990. Long time.
I do remember that.
Good question.
All right, that's our last question.
Drop the mic.
Next up, we got Fred Fody, repair expert in the Philly market. One of the best. Hey, Fred, make sure you come off mute.
Good morning, guys. Good morning, Patrick.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Fred.
I have two questions here for you. The first question being, what is the longest term vision you have for repair technicians in terms of scope of work or any changes in role?
So I'm going to hit that a couple of different ways. In terms of scope, that's part of what I was just mentioning with the Bay Roofing acquisition. You know, most certainly PJ could have gone into northern New Jersey on their own, but we would have been going in as the same PJ Fitzpatrick that we had been for the past 40 years. And that's not what we were looking for. We were looking for, you know, a little bit more of a curious sense, a willingness to answer the phone and say yes and figure it out along the way, as opposed to saying no and staying under the confines of like a warm blanket. So in terms of scope, I would like to see right now, we have a big focus on slate repair, which are large ticket opportunities, as well as very unique opportunities that not a lot of people can support and provide services to the customer for. So we have a big focus that by the end of October to get that available up in northern New Jersey with techs, and then to spread that out in other markets. And there's going to be additional products for us to be able to build scope around that we don't have, we don't say yes to today that we can in the future. In terms of additional products, I don't know. And that's where we're going to look for feedback from you guys in terms of where you think it can go. Now, in terms of the role, I love Patrick, and Patrick's done a great job of supporting 25 of you and 3 repair techs, but we're going to, plus the warranty department, there's going to need to be growth in our managers to support Patrick and support the mission we're on, because this is probably one of the coolest things about our company is that this is a very much a unicorn role. And I don't know if you guys have ever heard that. Unicorns don't exist. They're hard to find. But when you have a person that can stand in front of a customer with a smile, use technology, have a little bit of sales acumen, diagnose the problem that's going on in their home, and then repair it on site, that skill set isn't, just out there on every corner to find. And it's really hard for that team to be able to go out there and match that type of need with the commitment to really high quality service. So I would expect to see us continue to grow. We're at 24 techs. I want to be at 50 in our existing markets over the next 2 years. And that's going to take a lot of work from marketing. It's going to take a lot of work from our PJ education team, Sarah and Josh. But that's going to be an opportunity for us to have more senior technicians, most likely managers overseeing groups of technicians in a market or multiple markets. And with that, the more we build scale with that group, the more there will be opportunities to step up from a skill set in your role, as well as potentially step up into supervisor or management roles that you want. And that's really important. I want to designate that there. I want you to grow the way you want to grow. So when we got here, there wasn't master bath installers. There was just bath installers. And now we have master because we wanted to create that additional step, that additional growth. And there's some other ideas that Al and others have on how we can continue that for those people. And I would expect to see those same type of energy in the repair team as we go forward.
Great answer. Okay, second question. Don't kill the questionnaire on this one. Can we have sick days that are separate from vacations?
That sounds like maybe a me question. And actually, wherever the microphone is, you might want to hand it over to Amanda. She's going to need it too. So to answer your question, Fred, we actually used to do it that way. And I know this is something we really have given a lot of thought to over time when we've surveyed our people. We used to do it that way, and we switched to the way we're doing it now. And Amanda, I don't know if you want to fill everyone on a little bit more completely.
Like Teresa mentioned, at least 6 or 7 years ago at this point, we had our time off policy broken out by vacation, sick, and a personal day. But as Teresa mentioned, when we surveyed our folks at that time, they preferred a PTO policy, which is one bucket of time where they can use it as needed. So as everyone knows, our days don't roll over. We don't pay them out. So some of those folks were losing those sick days. And they said, this doesn't seem fair. So we said, let's just make it one bucket of PTO, use it as needed, because you're going to get the same amount of days with either policy. So I hope that helps. Hope that answers your question.
And I would add on, I've worked at places where you got sick days, and it was like if you called in, it was like you had committed a crime. Like, and I
Really? You're using a sick day?
yeah, like it's for those of you that have been out there and you've worked at other companies, you can understand that type of energy, and where people sick days are almost look like you're letting your team, you're letting the company down, and people don't use them as mentioned. So we just try to. I want you to use. If you got 10 days, use them all. If you got 15, use them all, because you deserve that ability to take a breath. And that time is not designated just so that you can go on vacation. It's also sometimes just so you can take a breath. You need a day. You need a mental health day. Your kids are sick, whatever it may be. So we want you to not think about, hey, I'm going to have someone that may negatively look at this. Just this is your time. It's your personal time. Use it as you wish. And we'll continue to reevaluate that as rules, laws, and people change.
Meaty stuff. Good questions, James. I appreciate what you said about repair. I agree with pretty much everything you said there. I'll say one thing is that the conventional wisdom is to kind of have repair the products that we replace, right? So we have that cohesive customer experience. But that doesn't have to be that way. So yeah. All right, next question. We have Varney Outland from IT.
Okay. So my question is, we have made efforts to acquire an enterprise resource planning system, Sage Insight, that scales with the company. Will we make the same considerations for other software systems? For example, customer relations management software or Microsoft data tools?
That's a great question, Barney. And I think, I do a lot of public speaking specifically on technology. And one of the things that I always do is show our tech stack. And I don't show it like, here are the different technologies we use. I show it in line with the customer journey. So I can give a representation of how that flows and how we're utilizing technology. And Sage Intacct is a huge part of that. One, it's going to be a great tool for our teams in the accounting and finance world, because it's going to simplify the processes. And when you simplify processes and automate processes, you in turn then create greater levels of accuracy, better details. And with that, we're going to be able to use that information long term to make better decisions, vendors, products, and more. In terms of a CRM, I would, popular statement or not, ServiceTitan's the best that's out there. And let me say that again, ServiceTitan is the best that is out there. It has more tools than we use on a day-to-day basis. And most things, not most, things that people ask for are already available in some shape or form there. So as you look at our tech stack, because ServiceTitan is at the center as the CRM, it's our one truth. It exists in almost every step of the customer journey, which allows us one place to look for information that we can trust. What we want to focus on is continuing to press them to grow the system, to adapt to the needs that are changing within the business, and find ways to create better solutions that allow us to do what we've always done, just more efficiently, in a more streamlined fashion. And there is some really, really cool stuff coming. Great stuff for inventory, great stuff for the production team that needs to work off of inventory, great stuff from a project workflow that's going to address a lot of the pains that people deal with from a process standpoint on a day-to-day basis. So what I will tell you is, be vocal about what you don't have and allow us to be able to look for the solution within what we have. And then in turn, if we don't have it, then we can look for what's more. But that feedback cycle through one-on-ones, through talking to your managers, and not just saying I need something, but saying I need this, and this is why, and this is how it will benefit us. Because if we have a better understanding of where you're coming from, we have a better understanding how we can support you. And that's the same for Microsoft Teams. There's tons of opportunities. So we're gonna continue to evaluate. but we're also going to press ourselves to utilize what we have to the maximum. Teresa Ernst and I had a conversation with a guy who oversees kind of like technology development at Horizon. And if you think about Horizon, they're close to $1 billion company, but they've had a head start on us, but they've also been an opportunity for us to kind of learn and follow in some of their paths. When we talked to their person, he told us, if I could get an integration, something from the outside that can work with ServiceTitan, and it gives me 100% of what I need, and I can get 80% of what I need from the ServiceTitan solution, I'm using the ServiceTitan solution. And you're like, whoa, they'd rather have less, because by having it in one spot, we have more control of the flow and the information. So, you know, if I could go back to the start of like ServiceTitan, we would have changed our processes and adapted to what they had, as opposed to trying to jam our square peg into their circle hole. And that's on me. You know, as a leader of the business, I got to make good decisions. So when we talk about wins and lessons, I'm chalking them up just the same as everybody along the way. But there is some really great tools that are coming. We're going to continue to evaluate so that we can make sure we're the best PJ long term. But we've got some pretty strong solutions in front of you. We just got to help you be able to know how to maximize them.
James, one thing I would add too is, first of all, the speed at which technology is advancing in our industry is staggering.
Yeah.
I mean, 20 years ago when I started here, we were all paper, and you know, I don't even remember any software we implemented for the first 3 or 4 years I was here. Now it's, you know, it's just constant growth in what's available. We always look at what's available, and we will always challenge what we have to see if we can find something better. So as a company, that is certainly our philosophy, is to always see what's out there and try and improve if we can.
I agree. ServiceTitan is great. I think it has pretty much everything, you know, that I need. I know I don't run every part of the business, and that's not going to be the most popular thing in the world, but it's given me everything that I've needed to run repair. We have one more question from Barney. Yeah.
Okay, so what is your favorite movie or television series?
Ooh,
So
an
many.
easy one, finally.
Why don't you tell us what it is?
Well, that's
And
coming.
that's mine. Well, my first, second, and third favorite TV shows is Seinfeld. I mean, I've watched every one 100 times. It annoys her because I probably quote it too much, and I know every line that's coming, but it's still funny even when I know it's coming. And there's something it's like it just soothes me when I sit there and watch Seinfeld. So first, second, and third.
We consume a lot of content, I would say.
Too much content.
Yes. And we have movie passes to see movies at Regal. So we see so many movies. So there's too many movies to list for me, I'd say. But
Teresa's favorite movie is whatever movie has just come out. That's the
I
best
do
one, and
kind
that's
of
what we're going to
see.
go
I
see.
do kind of see everything, but I'd say for the holidays, of course, Elf. I mean, come on, there's no better. Maybe It's a Wonderful Life. Kids movies like Toy Story or the Lego Movie. We love the Lego Movie. All the Disneys are standouts, but there's always the classics like Shawshank Redemption, Jaws, Mr. Mom. I love Mr. Mom.
Great movie.
Yeah, and then I guess for TV shows, for me, I don't like to watch the same thing over and over and over.
She loves
so-
Family Guy, actually.
No, I hate Family Guy. Sorry. I know everyone's big fans. The voices drive me crazy. Let's see, Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, Lost, maybe Game of Thrones. I don't know.
That's plenty.
Yeah.
My favorite drama show was this. It's called Dark. It was on Netflix. It's a German show. It's a mind f. So like if you like a show that gets you
Subtitles.
thinking, yeah, you got to watch it in subtitles
Add that to the
in
list.
German language. But and then Scrubs. Anybody ever watch
Oh,
that
I
show?
love
If you talk to nurses and doctors, they'll say that's the most accurate representation of the way people act, and they do a pretty good job. But it's a great show. I need a feel good show. Life's hard. So if you know a feel good show, send them my way. I've already done it.
Oh, okay.
Good Place. If anybody hasn't seen it.
Yeah, that's
I got your back on Seinfeld, Rick.
I think a lot of people do.
A couple of sidlers over there. You know?
Yep.
Anyway, good stuff, Barney. Next up, we have Nick Calderaro, our marketing analyst.
What steps is management taking to ensure we are fully utilizing the systems and processes we already have in place? Additionally, how are we addressing gaps in compliance and make sure that these systems are being followed constantly or consistently across the departments?
Yep, it's we would think that if we have kind of a step by step and you give it to people, they'd follow it. But that doesn't happen. And partially that happens because as time goes along, people are here long enough where they start to feel bad that they have to ask, hey, how do I do that? Or they feel like they're they're not where they need to be. They're afraid to be vulnerable and say, hey, I need a refresher. And I always think about sports because you can be the best athlete in the world, but you still got to practice more than everybody else to be able to maintain that. And we're going to continue to do that as an organization. That's going to happen via the PJ education, whether you're in sales or you're in production. We're going to be investing in the trainers and the education components to allow us to continue to press ourselves to be great with what we have. But from an evaluation standpoint, a lot of it's coming back to this assessment program that Ashley Brown and Paul Sweeney have been working on and leading. And, ultimately, it's just measuring the things that we should be doing on a day-to-day basis and whether we are. And, for me, it's not if you ever heard the term carrot and the stick, it's not a stick where I want to come back and slap you on the hand and say, you're not following the process. That wouldn't help us. That would be a short-term fix that would lead to a long-term But what I want to do is be able to come back and say, hey, you aren't doing this. Why? Okay, let's help you get back on track. And sometimes from that why will be, okay, we need to rethink about how we're doing things. So there's a lot that's coming to have from a process improvement standpoint, from our CRM, from the Sage Intact integration. But also it's going to come down to us just committing to doing the right thing every time. And also committing that if we're not sure what to do, we raise our hands. Because this isn't a situation where we're taking a quiz and I expect you to know every answer every time. That's why we have resource guides. That's why we have SharePoint. That's why we have Teams, so we can collaborate and create bases of information for you to rely on and trust. So I would say communication via the Teams channels, for those of you that have them, especially out in the field for sales production, if you have questions, drop them in there, get them answered, because it's not a static one-on-one answer. Now it lives there evergreen. And that also will allow us to know, hey, we need to be focusing more on this in training in small groups. So as with anything, it's a collaboration. The more that you follow the processes, the better we are. The more that you're willing to stop and ask for help when you're unsure of how to follow the process, the better we are. It's not going to come from one route. It's going to come from both in that scenario. But the assessment program is a big one because we hold our managers accountable to know whether you are doing what you're supposed to do. Like I said, not from a stick standpoint, but from a carrot, helping you elevate yourself. Because we got core values, but ultimately we got a core purpose, and that's making life better one home at a time. And that's a big freaking commitment we make to people. And we have to be willing to be very granular and very specific about what we do to be able to match that core purpose. And that starts with everybody doing what's prescribed. But I do want people to understand that sometimes you might forget or you might not know. And let's make sure that we talk in those moments. Let's just not let a problem be created.
Thanks, James. One more question. What's the best piece of advice you ever received?
When I got my very first kind of upper mid-level position, the gentleman who was the vice president of the company said to me, he's like, if you want to continue to grow in your career, you need to understand that as you grow, your job is more and more human resources. And at that point, I always thought about it like, well, I'm not in HR. Like, what's that mean? But now when I sit in my seat, I really see the clarity of that statement and the power of it, because as I said earlier, I'm not going to answer the phone this year, and I'm not going to probably stand in front of a customer, and I'm not going to be squeezing into a bath trying to install it. But what I can do is make sure that you're prepared for that moment. I'm in the business of people more than anything. So that was really good advice that didn't necessarily make sense then, but really resonates with me now.
Yeah, for me, I would say, I kind of mentioned it earlier too, it's to focus on the things you can control and not focus on the things that you can't. And I think I might have mentioned it earlier, I'm not all that good at it, but it's a kind of a constant battle. But just to focus on what you can impact, I think is what's so important, and try your best not to worry about what you can't.
I think for me, it's being persistent. think when I was younger, earlier in my career, I struggle with that some, in that I would feel weird or dumb, like, bringing it up again and again and again. But I've learned that this is key to everything I do, and that now I'm like a dog with a bone. If something's in my head, it's gonna happen one way or another. And I just think we all could be a little bit more persistent, and don't feel bad asking a second time or a third time if that's what's needed, because that's how you get things done. And I do think asking with kindness, it all depends. Tone is important, as I hear at home all the time. Tone is important. So, but yeah, being persistent, I think, is key.
She's very persistent at home.
And at work.
Some good advice there. Good questions. All right, next up we have Mike Jones, who's our warehouse and inventory supervisor from Hilly.
Hi, good morning, guys. I have two questions. So the first one is how close are we to a possible waterfall option when it comes to running credit for financing rather than running them individually?
So this is a great question. Thanks, Mike. And it's great not only because it's relevant, but it's great because it comes from doing things our way and understanding the challenges of it and coming with solutions. So when I said earlier, like, hey, we need to do something, that why, there's a very definitive use case for the why that exists in a waterfall. And for anybody who doesn't understand, what that means is we put somebody's information in, and it checks multiple different companies all simultaneously, even if it takes them down to a lower threshold, like where they have to have a higher interest rate or whatever the case may be. It waterfalls, it flows. Couple challenges. You heard me say earlier, if I can be in Service Titan versus being outside of Service Titan, I want to be in Service Titan. So Service Finance, GoodLeap, and other products in Service Titan are integrated. So it creates a more unified experience. We don't have to do double entry of information. There's a variety of benefits there. I would expect to see their solution continue to grow and revamp, and maybe it not be a GoodLeap integration and a Service Finance integration, but it eventually becomes a finance integration where it does that. With that said, the second piece is there are solutions out there. There's one that we've talked to and been talking to for, probably about 6 to 8 months now, called One and Fund. Wonderful people, Jeremy, Jason, myself, and Paul met them at a conference and spent a lot of time talking to them, and it's a really great fit. But we can't come with our plans to them. And guys, our plans are really aggressive, and they're really aggressive because our scale is aggressive. And that's important, because if you go to Green Sky right now, they're writing paper loans for 13, 14, 15% for the best of customers, and we're offering 999 for 120 or 180 months, the same as we did 3 years ago when interest rates, when the federal interest rate was close to zero. So it's a lot of decisions that go into it, but it's also ultimately it comes down to we need to have the right plans for the consumer, or else it won't matter. We need to have the right pricing for us so that we don't have to subsidize that whole entire process. And then the last piece is making sure that we can get it into the system and use it. So I would say that's a big, long punt for the short moment. But it is very, very actively being watched. It's very actively being worked on. And hopefully we'll have better solutions. But the most important thing is having the right plans for the consumer, or else they're not going to buy. And when you slip out to those waterfall plans, sometimes you end up, it's a lost leader. Yes, you get this one place, but you don't have the best plans for customers to be able to put in front of them.
Okay.
Mark, another question?
Yes, question 2. Can we do away with individual incentives and raise the base salary complementary to the business in our area?
So, incentive programs and plans like this are created with the best of intentions, but it doesn't mean that they can't break over time. And what made sense when we were a $25 million business and we're tracking certain things and behaviors and results don't necessarily make sense now. So Amanda and Jason Phillips have been working really closely and giving updates along the way to Rick, Teresa, Greg, and I, because we want to simplify incentives. So to answer your question, yeah, there are going to probably be on the back end of this discussion roles that get incentives today that don't really make sense because you're not really dictating or controlling your ability to hit that goal. that may see their salaries increase a little bit and that money get absorbed into a base or an hourly type of scenario. For those, though, that will continue to have incentives, we need to simplify them. So this is a twofold ask, because you would like to have simplified incentives. You'd like to be able to have more transparency of how you're doing against them. But one of the things that makes that difficult now is because there's a lot of qualifiers. There's a lot of things related to your behavior that qualify you to get an incentive. So what we want to do is to move away from that. You have an incentive based on hitting a result, and you should be able to see it and track it and get there. But if we take those qualifiers away, they still need to be part of the conversation, because there's getting a result and there's how you get the result, and they both matter. So for example, if you aren't performing and now you still hit your goal, and that may have prevented you from hitting your goal last time, there's going to have to be discussion, whether it's corrective action, whether it's just a one-on-one. And I'll call out the call center. Connie and her managers do a fantastic job with this, because every month on their one-on-one, you get a report card, which is a compilation of your listening scores, the results, the leads you set, whatever the case may be. And that's part of one-on-one, so they can address the behaviors where you're really doing well and where you might be falling short and holding yourself and the team back. And they've separated it from the incentive. If they hit their leads, they get their payment. It's not whether they got a listening score of 52 or 54, but they're both relevant conversations. So I would expect in the near future to see some people maybe not having incentives, some people having very, very clean and easy and able to track incentives, but we will have to have that conversation about it matters how we get there along the way. And we're not necessarily good with that. Like, we have to be better as a team to accept, and this starts with me, hey, we're not doing it right. Okay, I own it. I'm honest with myself, or I'm honest with you, and then we become better the next day. That type of energy is going to have to complement that simplification of incentives. But we hear you. I don't want to call them broken, but they're not working at warp speed like we need them for you guys. And that has been a big focus for Amanda this year.
Really thoughtful questions. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, great question.
Next up, we have Henry Must, who is a warehouse logistics specialist from Pittsburgh.
Hello, everyone. I have two questions for you guys. The first one is, can we get the card taping system so we don't have to keep typing the card information for payment? It would save so much time.
Yeah, so I wasn't even sure what this was when I first saw it, but I get it now. We used to have Chase, these attachments for people in the field, for people that run Chase credit cards. Now that we use Service Titan, those don't work. So we are actually researching right now. There is card swipers that are available that work directly with Service Titan, and you'd be able to swipe and or tap. So both would work per what you're looking for. Don't have the solution yet, but we hear you. And I definitely don't want you entering information time and time again by hand. It creates an opportunity for mistakes. It creates an opportunity for inconsistency. And that's the same boat as the why we want financing integrations. We don't want you to have to go through extra steps when it's not necessary. So stay tuned, but we'll look for a solution hopefully pretty quickly there.
And this is a great example. These are the things we need to hear from the people in the field to be able to keep up with technology, because we want to be on the cutting edge of technology, and that makes your life easier.
And to be honest, like, it was one of those moments, and we're not perfect. Like, we're trying our best to be good for you guys. But sometimes we don't know, or we may have thought something happened. That whole assume piece really does make a bad thing out of us. We all thought it was something that happened and existed for you guys. And somewhere along the line, it stopped and it broke. And now we're like, shoot, we got to get this back. So, please don't, if something doesn't smell right, talk about it with your manager, and bring it up in your one-on-one, because as Teresa mentioned, they read, and try to peruse through a lot. And I do as well, because not because I'm checking in on you, but because I want to know what matters to you.
All right. Speaking of what doesn't smell right, you have another question.
Yes. It's pertaining to the Philly market. Can we get a second men's gym? It's like the Lincoln Financial Field at halftime.
Oh my gosh. Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. We already
do
have
have
two.
two.
We have two men's bathrooms. There's the big one in the warehouse, and then in the office there's a smaller one. So, are we saying that those two aren't enough, or
Yeah, we might need to take a number. I
no,
don't know,
not
something
enough?
like
Gavin's shaking his head. No, not enough. Wow.
that.
Okay.
Next question, please.
Oh, I'll work on it. Okay.
Talk about taking action. We went from having one bathroom to two. Just
I know. I mean, I don't mess around.
Thanks, Henry. Next up, we have Allison Sane, who is one of our customer service representatives.
First and foremost, I want to thank you guys for having me today.
Mhm.
We do have two questions for you. One is, what's your best advice to get through a month when you are not hitting your sales goals?
So I'll take that one. Couple things. One is, and it kind of comes back to the question I answered about the best advice I ever got, and that is to focus on what you can control and don't worry about what you can't. So back to the basics is often it. What can we control? How well do we know our scripts? How well do we know the process? How well do we know the products if we're in sales? Part of it is even just almost an attitude. When you start to struggle, sometimes that attitude or that feeling can come across to the customer. In sales, it may feel like desperation almost to the customer. So I think it's really focusing on the basics, focusing on what you can control. I do remember when I was selling, and this was 20 some years ago, but I broke the record for the most sales in a month, 1 month. And I don't laugh, it was like $190,000 or something. It's a little bit more now, but the next month, I think I sold $30,000, and I thought I had forgotten how to do it. I thought I was gonna, have to quit. But just kept realizing it'll turn around. It's almost a law of averages sometimes, and it did. So again, just focus on what you can control.
Yeah, life's peaks and valleys. So I mean, ultimately, if you're in a valley, you're on your way to your peak as long as you're consistent with your behaviors and keep yourself focused. But that's the difficult part, where a lot of times we play against ourselves more than the customer's playing against us or management's playing against us. We're playing a mental game ourselves, and then we have to work through that. And it's difficult, but it's putting hard work and sticking to the process is what's going to get you there.
All right. And our second question is, how does one continue to keep motivated despite conflicts and obstacles?
I could take this one. I think it's hard. First of all, it's really hard, and easier said than done. But my favorite saying is, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I really, really think if we're doing the little things every day, just as Rick said and James mentioned earlier, when we're prepared, when good things come up, we're ready to take advantage. And I think that's the most important part. There's nothing worse than not being prepared when a great opportunity comes your way. So I really think we just have to be prepared, and then of course be optimistic, keep looking for that opportunity, and then of course be confident and take it when we can. So, but it is hard. It's easier said than done. And that's my advice. You guys, anything? No?
You nailed it.
Great advice. Thanks, Allison. All right. Next question, we have Travis Ramos, one of our corporate recruiters.
So my question to you guys is, how does PJ Fitzpatrick envision work-life balance, and what is PJ Fitzpatrick doing to make that happen?
Well, I can start answering that one. So for one thing, we really, a big, and this is back from when my father started the business, we never really want to see people killing themselves in working 1 million hours a week to do their jobs. I mean, we want everyone to have a great work-life balance. Sometimes it's super busy, certain times of the year, things happen. I think we all kind of understand that. But we really do our best to make sure we're well staffed. We do have a couple different things that we're always looking at. So we're always looking at how many people are assigned to each manager. We're always looking at, communication after hours. There's a lot of things that we try to do every day to keep a healthy work-life balance. Having said that, I know some areas it's easier than others. When you work in the office, it's much easier to control that than when you're out on a bath job and something goes wrong. So really just have to, if you are in a situation where you don't feel like you have a good work-life balance, please talk to your manager, because we can do something about that. And they need to know we cannot fix a problem if we don't know about it. But having said that, we do care about it, and we're really trying to make sure that everyone in this company has a great work-life balance.
You have permission to shut down, right? Like, I mean, like a lot of times companies, they don't say that. And by not saying it, you're expected to do it. You know, I find it, I actually don't think there is anything such thing as work-life balance, because you don't leave your life at home when you come to work, and you don't leave work at home at the office when you go home. It's being able to compartmentalize them to the moments and be able to then enjoy what else is out there. And if you're stressing yourself out on a day-to-day basis, it could be one of two things. One, there's more work than what your bandwidth allows, or maybe you're not utilizing your bandwidth to the best that it could be used. And both of those are scenarios we need to hear about, and so that we can help you. Because everybody has a different path to that balance, or whatever it may be. We just want to help you be able to get there and know you have permission to enjoy it. And that's part of that big after hours communication. You know, I used to get messages all night from my owners. And I actually had a conversation at 1 o'clock in the morning one day where my wife looked at me and said, is this crazy?
Yeah.
But that's what happens sometimes, and that's not okay. And that's where it's important that, you know, we give you guys the opportunity to get out there and enjoy your life. And then maybe not the balance, but the ability to enjoy.
Absolutely. Great answer. And then the tricky question, you could have dinner with a famous historical person. Who would it be?
I'm going to ship this one. There's not a single historical person I want to have. There's so much out there for any historical person. Like, my dad died when I was 1. My mom passed a few years ago, and I just didn't ask enough questions. So if I could really, you know, I think she's the greatest historical figure ever existed. So if I could have dinner, it would be with her, and I would do what I wish I had done before, which was ask questions, because I don't know a lot about my history and my life and my family, and that's my fault. And I think that's what I would want to do.
Sweet.
Anyone else want to take a stab at that?
They
or-
have to, they have to tell the truth if you're talking to them.
Absolutely. You can ask all the secret questions.
Okay, maybe I'd want to have dinner with Donovan McNabb, find out if he really threw up in the Super Bowl.
That's a good.
and he has to answer it accurately, or honestly, I should say.
Yeah, I don't know that I would have a historical one too. I mean, I guess one of the Rafa just retired. Maybe I'd check out
Rafael Nadal,
yeah,
for those non-tennis fans.
Maybe Serena Williams. I don't know. That's a tough one.
Very good. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Travis. Next up, we have Melissa Moss, who is one of our sales coordinators, or our one and only sales coordinator. Right?
Thank you, everybody. I was trusted with 2 hard-hitting questions to ask you today. The first one being, Christmas is a busy time of year. Are we having a big Christmas party like we did in 2022 this year?
Jane? Just kidding. That's definitely up my alley. We have a lot of fun stuff planned for Q4. We're bringing back bringing back a few oldies. We're going to do the Linvilla pies like we did a few years back for Thanksgiving. We're going to do wreaths. But the big question is always about the parties, and holiday parties are on. I met with all the GMs a few weeks back, and we are frantically planning, getting our dates together. So there will be a party in each location, and it will include dinner, guests, and hopefully a theme. Ours will have a theme in Philly for sure. So yes, the answer is yes.
Wonderful. And second question, if you could switch jobs with anyone at PJ Fitzpatrick for one day, who would it be and why?
For me, whoever drives the most. So maybe somewhere in the warehouse. I love driving. I don't know what it is. I love being in my car. If I'm stressed out, sometimes I'll just drive. When I'm going home, if I leave at 5, she knows it's a 10-minute drive, but it might take me 45 minutes to get home, because I'll just kind of drive around. And so I think something that put me in a truck for long periods of time is what I'd want to do. Maybe for just a day though.
Yeah. James, do you have any?
I'd probably switch with a repair tech. You know, I want to understand like how they're able to do what they do on a day-to-day basis. I call them unicorns because I really believe it. And I'd want to try to figure that out and understand why they do such a good job of representing us.
Yeah, I love that. I was going to say that, or bath. I love what our bath installers do every day. I think it's really exciting being there from start to finish of a job, I just think it's really cool.
Like the dance, like if you watch the time lapse,
Yeah.
like they're like kind of moving in
It's
and out
so
of each
cool,
other. over the
yeah,
course
it
of
really
it's
is.
cool to see.
Looks easy on the time lapse.
Well, and yeah, piece of cake, right?
We are hiring, James, just,
Well, let's see. Maybe I don't know if I'll be able to get it.
at least set up a ride along.
Rotator cuff problems. I don't think so.
Really awesome questions. Thank you, Melissa. One final question. Now, this is the one that everyone's been waiting for. I know. You ready?
Yes.
This one's for James, though.
Uh-oh.
You guys can jump in if you want to, I guess, but it's really for James. Which came first, James? The window or the door?
Ooh.
You know what? It's like going to be the hardest question. I think the window came first because if you close the door, you close opportunity. So keep the door open, all the opportunities.
How are you going to get in the house if there's no door, though?
Well, eventually there needs to be a door. Then it'll swing. So I don't know. That's a tough one.
That'll never be solved.
Yeah, that was a tough one. You're right. Thank you, everybody. A lot of really good questions. I like the back and forth conversation that we had. There was some really meaty stuff in there. Really appreciate everyone taking the time to join today. Everybody, anyone else have any final parting words?
Yeah, just sorry. I do love these two, and one of the things that just brings to mind is we send out a lot of surveys asking for feedback on things. Please make sure you take those seriously. Sometimes we have trouble getting folks to fill those out, but this is, it results in things like this. This is the way we're able to help your jobs be easier, better, and without your feedback, we can't do it. And we do take your feedback seriously, take it to heart, and do everything we can to implement the things we can and explain the things that maybe we can't.
So there were some questions that we didn't get a chance to get to today. So those aren't going to be forgotten. We're going to take the time to get answers back to you. Some of them might be, hey, we got to work on it. And I think that's kind of the difficult part is when you share feedback, sometimes you don't get instantaneous gratification. And when you don't get instantaneous gratification, you go, well, they're not listening to me, or my feedback wasn't valuable, and you don't repeat the cycle of sharing. But a lot of times, we're like a big cruise ship now. We're not a little smooth little boat that can make an easy turn. We got to do a big wide turn to be able to make it happen. And sometimes it takes time. Sometimes we can give updates, sometimes we can't. But most changes we've had in this business since I've been here have been based on feedback from each of you. So I encourage you to really do share that information. Lean into the surveys when they come out. Lean into talking to your manager. Lean into your one-on-ones. But I did want to there was one question that we didn't get to that is important because I think this is representative of we need to talk. And it's, can we get a project app to show recent customers we did work for in the homeowner's neighborhood while we're at an appointment? And we have two features. We have a product called Project Map It, which is available. I think it might be part of your Engage. If not, it's separated. I'll get with Jeremy to figure that piece out. But Project Map It shows us siding and roofing jobs that we've done with certainty all around the region. And then also on our website, we have recent projects along the top. That's a product called Real Work Labs, where we actually have photos of the job, the customer's Google review, and more there. So this is a scenario where someone's out in the field, flailing, maybe struggling through moments when that happens, and the tool is already available to you. And that's part of the, hey, don't be embarrassed that you might not know something. Always be willing to learn the next time. So just a good chance for us all to really be better together from here. So I thank you all for taking the time. We're going to wrap this up in a moment. Patrick will bring us home, but make sure to pay attention. We got our stars and studs from September. They're going to be featured at the end. So congratulations and thank you to all of you for the great work. And we want to do more of these type of scenarios where we can be out and be able to talk. But what really matters is what happens day to day from this point on, not just these bigger moments where we have an opportunity to do this. So appreciate everybody and hopefully have a great rest of October and a great Halloween.
Thanks, James. Thanks, Teresa. Thanks, Rick. Thanks, everybody who showed up today in person. Thanks, everyone who had a question out there in the markets. Have a great day.
Thanks, everybody.